there's some potentially explosive news about Matt Gaetz that may or may not derail his nomination to be the Attorney General. Now, for more than 2 years, claims of sexual misconduct have swirled around the congressman. In fact, they were the subject of a House ethics investigation. It's a report that House Leader Mike Johnson said would not be released since Representative Gaetz stepped down from his position.
But now a lawyer for two of the women who testified to a congressional panel is speaking out. Joel Leppard told this to NBC News.
She observed to her right her friend, who was 17 at the time, having sex with Representative Gaetz. They were leaned up to what she described to as a game table.
The lawyer also told NBC News that one of the women testified to the congressional panel that she witnessed Gaetz having sex with her then underage friend in 2017. Let's watch that.
She testified that her belief was that Representative Gaetz had no knowledge that she was under 18, that she was 17 years old at the time he was having sex with her. She also testified that when Representative Gaetz found out that she was underage, that they stopped their sexual relationship.
The lawyer said that his clients want America to know this happened and that it's real. Now, Elon Musk, one of Trump's leading advisors, had this to say on X, showing that Gaetz still has the president-elect's support. Matt Gaetz has three critical assets that are needed for the AG role: a big brain, a spine of steel, and an axe to grind. He is the Judge Dredd America needs to clean up a corrupt system and put powerful bad actors in prison. Gaetz will be our hammer of justice.
That was Elon Musk's view. Now, the House Ethics Committee is scheduled to meet Wednesday as pressure intensifies on the panel to release their investigative findings about Gaetz. It's a report they've worked on for more than a year. The committee could vote to publish the report, bury it, or share it with senators. Now, per the New York Times, the president-elect has wasted no time in barreling ahead and putting personal pressure on senators. The President-elect Trump has flooded the zone. His approach of flooding the zone to get most, if not all, of his appointments approved. A report just from Politico this morning said that GOP lawmakers have told Trump and his team that Gaetz has, quote, little chance of being confirmed. But will Trump push forward anyway, just to see who is friend and who is foe? And I must say, I have heard from a lot of conservative friends, kind of politically connected people who do not expect Matt Gaetz to get confirmed. I am skeptical that when push comes to shove, he won't be confirmed, because it sounds a lot to me. I think I tweeted something to this effect. The people saying, oh, Matt Gaetz could never get confirmed, sound to me like the same people who said, oh, Donald Trump could never be president again after January 6th. Okay, at no point has there been a off-ramp for any of this. So now we'll see. I think we're 53 is the margin in the Senate. So if Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski and one other people say no, then it's no. Right. And I think at least two of the three have already indicated that, but yeah. Who knows? No, it's not going to happen.
In terms of the politics of it, my view would be that the Republicans on Capitol Hill have often talked a good game about standing up to President-elect Trump and have typically not done it. I think in the math they would actually need 4, right? Because if there was 3, it would be 50-50 and J.D. Vance could then break the tie.
Correct.
But in any event, the point is, like, will people stand up against this? The other point is just the nature of the allegation. And I know you and I have been careful to say there was a criminal probe into Matt Gaetz and no charges were pressed. We're now at a point where these are testimonies to the House Ethics Committee, but that lawyer who we showed also said that his clients have provided sworn testimony, I believe as part of the criminal probe or to the criminal authorities. Now, that to me does give added heft to these allegations. The chief, or the most creepy one, is the suggestion that he had sex with a 17-year-old, I believe it was 2017, when he would have been in his mid-30s. I mean, that's gross behavior, and I think that should rule anyone out from being Attorney General or holding any other high office. Whether it in practice does so is a different matter.
Yeah, you know, we are talking about this very carefully because these are allegations. He was the subject of a blackmail attempt, and I tend to be I try to be discerning of various sexual misconduct allegations, particularly when they seem to me to be rounded up to like sex trafficking, as it was for him at one point, because it happened to be on a plane traveling from one jurisdiction to the next. And I will say that, you know, now all of this, we could conclude that all of this is disqualifying to be Attorney General, which that is fair enough. I don't necessarily think it should be a criminal matter, and I would suggest this is uncomfortable to talk about, but in some states in the country, it would not be. It is not. The age of consent is 16 in some states and 18 in others. And as uncomfortable as that is, I don't know where it was and whether it would be a crime. Now, so I don't think it should be a criminal matter, but you don't have to be. It is fine to say someone nominated to be Attorney General should not even have the. Well, are we? Is it 16 or 17? That's a bridge too far.
Well,
I would agree with that.
Yeah, exactly.
If it was found to be. And I would further say that I think there's no reason not to release this report for transparency, for disclosure. I want to let the people decide. Government redacts and hides from us way too much information. We're trying to judge not knowing what's in the report. It could be that the report doesn't have very compelling evidence, and that could be to his credit, or it could be the report is really damning and he was getting out of Congress in time to avoid that scrutiny. So either way, we should see that information. I'm fully for not just the senators. We should all. This is a member of Congress. The American people should be able to see this report. I would say
absolutely, and I think one of the things that adds to the cloud of suspicion over Gaetz, who denies all accusations of wrongdoing, is the fact that he resigned instantly he was nominated to be Attorney General, which in practice has the effect of ending any House ethics investigation because they can't investigate.
He's also accused of, again, what I would say, this is not necessarily any of it do I think should be dealt with criminally, but that doesn't mean you need to be the Attorney General.
Right.
The showing or displaying of pictures, of inappropriate pictures, that is just kind of like a workplace thing you should not do, that he is accused of that.
Right.
Again, these are accusations that other Republicans have suggested are true.
Exactly.
This is not just unfair smearing coming from Democrats. Now, that's a lot of negative on him, and I think it is a shame that he has a kind of personal, ethical, legitimate problems because his policies are, in my view, some of them at least, vastly superior to some other garden variety Republican who could be installed in that position. He has come out very strong on sort of civil libertarian grounds against surveillance issues. He's not a hypocrite on like drug and sex issues. He's been for decriminalizing marijuana possession, moving it off the schedule it is. He's been for pardoning Edward Snowden. These are a lot of good, solid, libertarian or even progressive views that, and then to the just progressive side, I don't actually agree with these views, but one of the reasons I've seen progressives like Glenn Greenwald and Lee Fong and Zed Jalani excited about him is that he's very pro-antitrust. He's defended Lena Khan. He said she's a great member of the Biden team. I'm actually not so amenable to those views, so that's an aspect of him I don't like. But this is a interesting ideological individual who would be very different from, I think, just a standard, Republican law and order lawman to be installed in that position. Yeah. Someone I would like better than the person likely to be installed in his place. Again, that's not to excuse these various accusations, which if demonstrated with compelling evidence in a report or from testimony, I think are basically disqualifying to serve in this position. But at the end of the day, I do care about the policies more than the person.
I have no objection to a focus on policies to a degree, and I'm not generally comfortable in a sort of moralizing position, but I do think that there are certain lines that just render a person inappropriate to be in the position, particularly if Attorney General, top of the Justice Department, top in effect of the sort of the political side of the legal system. So there's an allegation that he denies that he slept with a 17-year-old. There are allegations that he paid these two women for sex. There are allegations about drug use. Now, you go back a previous generation. Bill Clinton nominated a woman called Zoe Baird to be Attorney General. She failed because she had employed a Peruvian couple, I believe, who were either undocumented or legal here but not eligible to work, to do kind of nanny-type jobs for her. John Tower, who was nominated by H.W. Bush to be Defense Secretary, failed in the Senate with no suggestion of criminality, but suggestions that he was a bit of a boozer and a bit of a womanizer, and that was enough to rule him out. So I think there are things that you don't need, your wrongdoing doesn't need to rise to the level of criminal culpability. in order to be an unacceptable choice for the position. And I would argue that Gaetz is pretty much there.
I agree with that, although in both of those cases, I don't know how bad the boozing was. I certainly in the Peruvian nanny case wouldn't have found that disqualifying. We have moved, it is interesting. In some ways, I think we're past the absolute zenith of cancel culture, sort of, people losing their jobs or their scholarships or whatever for like ugly things they said when they were kids, or like a problematic Halloween costume or whatever. There was probably a time period in the 2018 to 2022 where the only people who weren't going to lose their jobs were politicians who just hang on, who don't face market incentives or public pressure, and can just I was installed in this position by the voters, and I don't have to go anywhere for 2 or 4 years. The things that the scandal-plagued politicians resigned over 10 or 20 years ago, we just live in a different time. They never resign now. They just power through it. It's remarkable, and I think that's mostly a bad thing. Although I will say some of the you didn't live a perfect life. I'm not saying this applies to Matt Gaetz, but you didn't live a perfect life. No, we're going to have only totally boring, totally. Yeah. People who have been training to be in the Senate since they were 5 years old. It's a kind of what American psychopath out there satisfies that criteria? Do you know what I mean?
I take that point. You want people who have lived life, but you don't want
lived
people
who
are involved in creepy or predatory behavior, and that's what I think we're debating in Mr. Gaetz's case.
All right, sounds good to me. More Rising coming up next. Lots to talk about today. Tell us what you think about the Matt Gaetz confirmation hearings that are likely to unfold. We'll be back in just a minute.